The photo showed up in my Facebook memories on a Tuesday morning. 3 years ago, Jake and me cutting our wedding cake, both of us laughing at something his cousin David had just shouted from the crowd. We looked so happy, so innocent, so completely unaware that the maid of honor standing right behind me would eventually steal my husband. I stared at that photo for a long time, remembering how Mia had helped me get ready that morning. How she'd held my dress while I stepped into it, how she'd promised to always be there for me. That was 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks since I'd started noticing the signs. Jake's late nights, his phone always face down, his sudden interest in work conferences that didn't exist, the way Mia had started avoiding our weekly girls' nights. I'd been gathering evidence slowly, carefully. Screenshots of deleted texts I'd recovered, credit card statements showing restaurant charges on nights he claimed to be working late, hotel receipts from the business trips his company knew nothing about. But I wasn't ready to confront them yet. I had a better plan brewing. The call came on Thursday afternoon while I was at my marketing job, designing social media campaigns for local businesses. Ironic considering what I was about to do with my own social media presence. Rachel. Mia's voice was bright and excited. I have huge news. What's up? I asked, though I already knew what was coming. Jake proposed. We're engaged. She was practically squealing. I know this might be weird timing with your divorce and everything, but I had to tell you, you're my best friend. Divorce. There it was, the lie they'd constructed to make themselves feel better about the affair. Congratulations, I managed. When did this happen? Last night, he took me to that little Italian place downtown, you know, Romano's? The one where we had your bachelorette dinner? He said he's been planning this for weeks. Romano's, our anniversary restaurant, where Jake had taken me for our first, second, and third wedding anniversaries. Of course he'd proposed to her there. That's amazing, Mia. I'm so happy for you. There's more, she continued. We want to get married soon. Like, really soon. Next month. Next month. They couldn't even wait for my fake divorce to be finalized. The thing is, Mia continued, we're having trouble finding a wedding planner on such short notice. Everyone good is booked solid, and you know how hopeless I am at organizing events. This was true. Mia could barely plan a dinner party without having a breakdown. I was wondering. She paused. I know this is a lot to ask, and I know the timing is weird, but would you consider helping me? You planned the most beautiful wedding I've ever seen, and that marketing conference you organized last year was flawless. I let the silence stretch out, pretending to consider it. I understand if you can't, she rushed on, with Jake being your ex and everything, but you're so good at this stuff, and I trust you completely. Ex. That word again, like our marriage was already ancient history instead of an ongoing legal reality. What exactly are you asking? Would you be my wedding planner? I'll pay you, obviously. Whatever the going rate is, I need someone I trust to help make this perfect. Perfect? She wanted her stolen wedding to be perfect. Let me think about it, I said. Can I call you back tomorrow? Of course. Take your time. I just really hope you'll say yes. After I hung up, I sat in my office chair and smiled for the first time in weeks. They'd just handed me the keys to their destruction. I spent Thursday night and all day Friday researching. Not wedding planning, revenge planning. I looked up every vendor in the city. Read reviews, checked availability, learned their policies and procedures. I studied the most popular wedding venues, their backup plans, their restrictions. Most importantly, I researched marriage license requirements. What paperwork was needed? What could go wrong? What might make a marriage ceremony legally meaningless? By Friday evening, I had a detailed plan. Not to humiliate them publicly, that would be too obvious, too crude. No, I was going to give them exactly what they'd asked for. A beautiful, memorable wedding day that would haunt them forever. I called Mia back Friday night. I'll do it, I said. I'll be your wedding planner. Her relief was audible. Really? Oh my God, Rachel, thank you so much. I was so worried you'd think it was too weird. Life's too short to hold grudges, I said. Besides, I want you to be happy. That part was actually true. I did want her to be happy, right up until the moment she realized what happiness cost. When do you want to meet to discuss details? How about tomorrow? Jake's going fishing with his dad all weekend, so we'll have plenty of time to plan without any interference. Perfect. Jake would be out of town, which meant I could work with Mia without him getting suspicious about my involvement. Saturday morning, I met Mia at a coffee shop downtown. She arrived with a stack of bridal magazines and a notebook filled with Pinterest screenshots. She looked radiant, the glow of a woman about to get everything she'd ever wanted. "I can't believe this is really happening," she said, settling into the booth across from me. 6 months ago, I thought I'd never find someone who really understood me. 6 months. So the affair had been going on for 6 months, not the 8 I'd estimated. Still plenty of time to fall in love while lying to me every single day. "Tell me about your vision," I said, pulling out my own notebook. For the next 2 hours, Mia described her dream wedding. Elegant but not pretentious, romantic but not overly traditional. About 100 guests at a beautiful venue, followed by dinner and dancing until midnight. "I want it to feel magical," she said, "like a fairy tale come true." "What's your budget?" "25,000. Jake's been saving up." She paused. "He said he'd been planning to make a big purchase anyway, so the money was already set aside." A big purchase. I wondered if that money had originally been intended for something for our marriage. Maybe the kitchen renovation we'd been discussing. Maybe the vacation to Italy I'd been dreaming about. And timeline? 4 weeks from today. I know it's crazy fast, but Jake doesn't want to wait. He says when you know, you know. When you know, you know. He'd said the exact same thing when he proposed to me. Over the next week, I threw myself into wedding planning with the dedication of someone whose life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. I researched venues and found Riverside Gardens, beautiful, prestigious, and with very strict policies about paperwork and documentation. Perfect. I contacted vendors and built relationships, the florist who specialized in dramatic arrangements, the caterer known for being flexible with last-minute changes, the photographer who prided himself on capturing authentic moments. Most importantly, I researched marriage license procedures in our county. I learned about the 3-day waiting period, the required documentation, the ways applications could be delayed or flagged for review. Mia and I met 3 times that week to finalize details. Each time, she grew more excited and grateful. "I don't know what I would have done without you," she said after our Thursday meeting. "You've thought of everything. This is going to be absolutely perfect." "That's the plan," I said. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Every conversation, every decision, every detail about their rushed timeline and eager planning. I was building a case, creating evidence, preparing for the reveal that would change everything. By the end of the week, I was ready for phase 2. The following Monday, I made a very important phone call to the county clerk's office. "Hi, this is Rachel Coleman. I'm calling about a marriage license application that was submitted last week for Jake Coleman and Mia Patterson." "Let me look that up," the clerk said. I could hear typing in the background. "Yes, I see it here. Is there a problem?" "I'm Jake Coleman's current wife. We've been married for 3 years, and we're not divorced." The typing stopped. "I'm sorry, what?" "Jake Coleman is attempting to obtain a marriage license while still legally married to me. I have our marriage certificate if you need documentation." There was a long pause. "Ma'am, that would be attempted bigamy. Are you sure about this?" "I'm very sure. I'd like to file a formal objection to the license application." "Of course. Can you come in today with documentation?" "I'll be there within the hour." By Tuesday morning, Jake and Mia's marriage license application was flagged for legal review. The process that should have taken 3 days would now take 3 weeks minimum, well past their planned wedding date. But they didn't know that yet. I was going to let them find out at the most dramatic moment possible. The rest of the week proceeded normally. Mia and I continued planning, finalizing details, confirming vendors. She was stressed about the timeline, but trusted me to handle everything. Jake, meanwhile, was acting increasingly nervous around me. Our conversations had become stilted and awkward. He was clearly feeling guilty about something, but he had no idea I knew what. "How's work?" I asked him over dinner Wednesday night, keeping my voice casual. "Fine. Busy." He didn't look up from his plate. "Any upcoming conferences or trips?" He tensed. "No, nothing like that." "That's good. I was thinking we could plan a weekend getaway soon. Maybe somewhere romantic." The guilt on his face was almost comical. Maybe. Let's talk about it later. Later. Everything was always later with Jake these days. Later, when he figured out how to tell me he was leaving. Later, when he worked up the courage to ask for a divorce. Later, when he felt ready to destroy our marriage officially instead of just secretly. But later never came. Because I wasn't going to give him the chance. Friday afternoon, Mia called me in a panic. Rachel, we have a problem. Jake went to pick up our marriage license today, and they said there's some kind of delay, something about additional paperwork needed. I made concerned noises. What kind of paperwork? They wouldn't tell him. Just said there was a flag on the application and it needed legal review. They said it could take weeks to resolve. Oh no. What does that mean for the wedding? I don't know. Her voice was shaky. We can't get married without the license. Should we postpone? This was my moment. Well, I said carefully, you could still have the ceremony. It wouldn't be legally binding without the license, but you'd still be married in the eyes of your friends and family. You could file the paperwork later when it gets sorted out. Really? Is that allowed? Lots of couples do it. Think of it as a commitment ceremony followed by a legal marriage later. I could hear her breathing slowly, considering. Jake's going to be so disappointed. He really wanted everything to be official. But you'd still have your beautiful wedding day. That's what really matters, right? You're right, it's about celebrating our love, not the paperwork. Her voice was getting stronger. Let's do it. Let's have the wedding as planned. Perfect. They were going to have a fake wedding ceremony in front of 100 people, thinking they were getting married, while I knew they weren't. And when the truth came out, well, that would be the real show. The week before the wedding, everything accelerated. Final dress fittings, vendor confirmations, guest list reviews. Mia was a bundle of nerves and excitement. I, meanwhile, was calm as glass. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. The venue was confirmed, Riverside Gardens, with their strict policies and professional staff. The flowers were ordered, white roses and elegant greenery, classic and romantic. The caterer was prepared, elegant dinner for 100 with several backup options ready. Most importantly, I'd had several conversations with the officiant, a friend of Mia's family who was licensed to perform marriages in our state. I'd carefully explained the paperwork delay and confirmed that he was comfortable performing a ceremony that wouldn't be legally binding until the license was sorted out. It's more common than you'd think, he'd said. The important thing is the commitment the couple is making to each other. The commitment, right? I'd also been carefully documenting everything for my own purposes. Photos of the venue, copies of vendor contracts, screenshots of texts and emails. A complete record of the fake wedding I was helping to plan. Because when this was all over, I wanted evidence of exactly what they'd done. 3 days before the wedding, Jake finally tried to have the conversation with me. We were sitting in our living room after dinner, the same room where we'd opened wedding gifts 3 years ago, when he cleared his throat nervously. Rachel, we need to talk. I looked up from my book. About what? About us. About our marriage. He was fidgeting with his wedding ring, the one he somehow hadn't thought to take off despite being engaged to another woman. What about it? I think we need to talk about separating. I let the words hang in the air for a moment. Separating? We've been having problems for a while. We both know that. Maybe it's time to admit that we want different things. Different things. Like how I wanted a faithful husband and he wanted to sleep with my best friend. This is sudden, I said. It's not sudden, Rachel. We've been growing apart for months. Growing apart. What a nice way to phrase I've been cheating on you. Have you thought about what you want? I asked. After the separation? He looked uncomfortable. I think I need some time to figure things out. Time to figure things out. Also known as time to marry Mia without technically being a bigamist. Okay, I said simply. He looked surprised. Okay? If that's what you want, then okay, we can talk about the details after this weekend. After this weekend? I'm busy this weekend. That wedding I'm planning, remember? Jake's face went slightly pale. He'd forgotten, somehow, that I was planning his fiancée's wedding. Right, the wedding. He paused. Whose wedding is it again? I smiled sweetly. Just a friend. You don't know her. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for a perfect day of revenge. I arrived at Riverside Gardens at 8 a.m. to oversee setup. The venue was beautiful, rolling lawns, elegant gardens, a charming pavilion for the ceremony. Everything Mia had dreamed of. The vendors arrived on schedule: flowers, catering, music, photography. I coordinated everything with military precision, making sure every detail was exactly as planned. At 10 a.m., Mia arrived with her bridesmaids for hair and makeup. She looked nervous but excited, radiant with anticipation. "I can't believe this is really happening," she said, hugging me tightly. "Thank you so much for making this perfect." "Anything for you," I said. "This day is going to be unforgettable." At noon, Jake arrived with his groomsmen. He looked handsome in his black tuxedo, but I could see the stress in his eyes. The guilt was eating at him. Our eyes met across the bridal suite, and for a moment something passed between us. Recognition? Maybe? Or regret? Then Mia appeared beside him, radiant in her wedding dress, and the moment was broken. "Ready to get married?" she asked Jake, standing on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek. "More than ready," he said, but his voice sounded hollow. They were both about to find out exactly how ready they were. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m. At 3:30, I gathered the wedding party for final instructions. "Remember," I told them, "this is a commitment ceremony. The legal paperwork will be filed later, but today is about celebrating Jake and Mia's love." A few people looked confused by the commitment ceremony language, but nobody questioned it. They trusted that I knew what I was doing. At 3:45, guests began taking their seats. I recognized most of them: our mutual friends, Jake's family, Mia's relatives, people who had attended our wedding 3 years ago. I positioned myself at the back of the ceremony space, where I could see everything but stay out of the way. My phone was ready to record. This was going to be the performance of a lifetime. At 4 p.m. exactly, the music began. The groomsmen walked down the aisle, followed by the bridesmaids. Everything was beautiful, elegant, perfect. Finally, Mia appeared with her father. She looked absolutely stunning in her flowing white dress, her face glowing with happiness. Jake stood at the altar, watching her approach, and for a moment he looked genuinely moved. Maybe he really did love her. Maybe this wasn't just an affair that got out of hand. That almost made me feel bad about what was coming next. Almost. The officiant began the ceremony with traditional words about love and commitment. Jake and Mia held hands, gazing into each other's eyes, lost in their moment. "Before we proceed," the officiant said, "I need to ask if anyone here knows of any legal impediment to this union." This was it. My moment. I raised my hand. "I do." The entire crowd turned to look at me. Confused murmurs rippled through the assembled guests. Jake's face went white. Mia looked puzzled. "I'm sorry," the officiant said. "Could you please state your objection?" I walked slowly down the aisle, my heels clicking on the stone pathway. Every eye was on me. "Jake Coleman is already married," I said clearly, my voice carrying across the silent crowd. "To me. We've been married for 3 years, and we've never been divorced." The silence was deafening. Mia's bouquet fell from her hands and scattered white roses across the ground. Jake looked like he might be sick. "Furthermore," I continued, reaching the front of the crowd, "their marriage license application was denied due to Jake's existing marriage. This ceremony has no legal standing whatsoever." The crowd erupted. Gasps, confused chatter, people pulling out phones to record what was happening. "What are you talking about?" Mia's voice was shaky, but she was trying to maintain composure. "Jake, tell her she's wrong." Jake opened his mouth, but no words came out. "Tell her you're divorced," Mia insisted, her voice getting higher. "Tell her about the papers you filed." I didn't file any papers," Jake whispered. "What do you mean you didn't file papers?" "We're still married, Mia. Rachel and I, we never got divorced." Mia stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "But you told me. I told you we were having problems. I told you we were going to separate. I never said we were divorced." "But you proposed to me. You bought a ring, we planned a wedding." I thought I'd figure it out before today." The crowd was recording everything now. Phones were out everywhere, capturing every word of this disaster. Mia turned to me, her face a mask of horror and confusion. You knew this whole time." "I knew." "And you still planned my wedding?" "I planned exactly the wedding you deserved." "Why?" Mia's voice cracked. "Why would you do this to me?" "You asked me to plan your perfect day. I said calmly. I gave you a beautiful venue, elegant flowers, wonderful food, and 100 witnesses to watch you try to marry someone else's husband. Jake finally found his voice. Rachel, please. This isn't what I wanted. What did you want, Jake? To sneak around for another 6 months? To file for divorce the day before your wedding? To make me the fool who never saw it coming? I was going to tell you. When, after the honeymoon? Mia was hyperventilating. This can't be happening. This isn't real. Jake's mother pushed through the crowd, her face furious. Jacob Coleman, what have you done? Mom, I can explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to everyone? That you're committing adultery in front of your entire family? Jake's father wasn't far behind, looking thunderous. Get in the car. Now. Dad, please. Now. The groomsmen looked mortified. The bridesmaids were comforting Mia, who was now sobbing in her wedding dress. David, Jake's cousin, was grinning despite the chaos. This is the most insane thing I've ever seen, he said to his wife. She planned the whole thing just to expose them. The officiant was trying to restore order, but it was hopeless. The crowd was buzzing with excitement and shock. Some people were leaving, others were staying to watch the drama unfold. Mia's parents appeared, looking confused and horrified. Sweetheart, what's happening? Her mother asked. Jake's married, Mia sobbed. He's been married this whole time, and she knew. She pointed at me. She planned this whole thing to humiliate me. I planned this to reveal the truth. I corrected. The humiliation is just a side effect. Mia's father looked like he wanted to hit someone. You mean my daughter has been having an affair with a married man? For 6 months, I confirmed helpfully. And you let us plan this wedding? You let us spend money on this farce? Your daughter asked me to plan her perfect day. I delivered exactly what she asked for. Jake was being led away by his parents, still in his tuxedo but looking defeated. He kept glancing back at Mia, but she wouldn't look at him. This is insane, someone in the crowd said. Did she really plan an entire fake wedding just for revenge? It's not fake, I said, turning to address the crowd. It's exactly what they wanted. A beautiful ceremony celebrating their love affair. Mia's maid of honor was trying to get her to leave, but Mia seemed frozen in place. 6 months, she kept repeating. 6 months of lies. Actually, I said, it was longer than that. I found evidence going back 8 months, but who's counting? You are, apparently, David said, still recording everything. This is going to be all over social media by tonight. Good, I said. Everyone should know what kind of people they are. Mia finally looked at me directly. How long have you known? I suspected for weeks. I confirmed it 6 weeks ago. I've been collecting evidence ever since. Evidence? I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. Screenshots of deleted texts, credit card statements, hotel receipts. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Mia's face crumpled. We didn't mean for this to happen. You didn't mean to get caught. We fell in love. You fell in love with someone else's husband. Jake had broken free from his parents and was walking back toward us. Rachel, that's enough. You've made your point. Have I? Because I'm not sure everyone understands what happened here. I turned to address the crowd again. Jake Coleman has been married to me for 3 years. 6 months ago, he began an affair with my best friend, Mia Patterson. They planned this wedding while he was still married to me, thinking they could figure out the legal details later. I discovered their affair and spent 6 weeks planning this moment. You're insane, Jake said. This is psychotic. What's psychotic is proposing to another woman while you're married to me. I was going to divorce you. When? You never filed papers. You never even asked for a separation until 3 days ago. I was waiting for the right time. The right time was before you started sleeping with my best friend. Mia was sobbing harder now. I thought he was divorced. He told me you were separated. Did you ever ask to see divorce papers? Did you ever wonder why he couldn't introduce you to his family? Why you had to keep your relationship secret? He said it was complicated. It was complicated because he was lying to everyone. The venue coordinator appeared, looking stressed. I'm sorry, but we have another event starting in 2 hours. We need to clear the space. Of course, I said brightly. The fake wedding is over anyway. I started gathering my things while chaos continued around me. Guests were slowly filtering out, most of them still recording or taking photos. This was going to be the story everyone told for years. Mia's family was huddled together, trying to figure out what to do next. Jake's family had mostly left in embarrassment and anger. "Wait," Mia called out as I headed toward the parking lot. "That's it? You're just leaving?" I turned back to her. "My work here is done. What about us? What about our friendship?" "What friendship? Friends don't steal each other's husbands." In the parking lot, people were clustering in small groups, rehashing what they'd just witnessed. I could hear fragments of conversation. "Can you believe she planned the whole thing? I always thought something was off about Jake lately. That's the most epic revenge I've ever seen." "Did you get it all on video?" David approached me as I reached my car. "That was absolutely savage," he said, admiration clear in his voice. "It was justice." "How long did you plan this?" 6 weeks, from the moment I confirmed the affair to today. "And you never considered just confronting them privately?" "Where's the fun in that?" he laughed. "Remind me never to cheat on my wife." I got in my car and drove away from Riverside Gardens, leaving behind the wreckage of Jake and Mia's perfect day. In my rearview mirror, I could see them standing in the parking lot, still in their wedding attire, surrounded by the ruins of their fairy tale. That evening, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine, watching the story explode across social media. Fake wedding was trending on Twitter. The videos from the ceremony had been shared thousands of times. Local news stations were picking up the story. My phone was buzzing constantly with calls and texts from friends who'd seen the footage. Everyone wanted details, explanations, reactions. I ignored most of them. There was only one call I answered. "Rachel?" It was my sister calling from across the country. "I just saw a video online. Please tell me that wasn't you." It was me. "Oh my God, are you okay?" "I'm perfect." That was intense. "Are you sure you're handling this the right way?" "Jake cheated on me with my best friend for 6 months. They planned a wedding while he was still married to me. I gave them exactly what they deserved." There was a long pause. "Okay, when you put it like that, it sounds pretty justified." It was justice. What happens now? Now they live with the consequences of their choices. "And you?" I looked around my quiet house, the house Jake had shared with me until 3 days ago, when I'd finally let him know I wanted a separation. The house that was now entirely mine. Now I move on with my life. Over the next few days, the story continued to spread. Local newspapers picked it up. Morning radio shows discussed it. I even got calls from a few national outlets wanting interviews. I declined them all. I'd said everything I needed to say at Riverside Gardens. Jake moved out completely that week, taking only his clothes and personal items. He left his wedding ring on the kitchen counter, the one he'd somehow never thought to remove during his 6-month affair. I heard through mutual friends that he and Mia had broken up. Apparently, the revelation that he'd been lying to her about our marriage had destroyed whatever trust existed between them. Good. They deserved to lose each other. Mia tried calling me several times, but I never answered. She sent long text messages apologizing, explaining, begging for forgiveness. I deleted them all without reading past the first few words. Some people thought I'd gone too far. Others thought Jake and Mia had gotten exactly what they deserved. The internet, predictably, was divided between calling me a genius and calling me a psychopath. I didn't care about any of it. I'd accomplished exactly what I set out to do. 2 weeks after the fake wedding, I received an unexpected visitor. I was working in my garden on a Saturday morning when a car pulled into my driveway. Mia got out, looking pale and thin. She'd clearly lost weight since the wedding day. "I need to talk to you," she said. "There's nothing to talk about?" "Please. Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her into my house. We sat in the living room where Jake had asked for a separation just days before his wedding. "I'm sorry," Mia said immediately. "I'm so sorry." "For which part? The affair or getting caught?" "For all of it. For believing his lies, for not asking more questions, for hurting you." I studied her face. She looked genuinely remorseful, but it was too little, too late. "You were my best friend for 20 years, I said. You held my bouquet at my wedding. You helped me pick out my dress. You promised to always be there for me." "I know. And then you slept with my husband for 6 months while smiling to my face every Friday night." Tears started streaming down her cheeks. "I thought he was divorced. I swear to you, I thought you were already separated. Did you ever ask to see papers? Did you ever question why he couldn't introduce you to his family as his girlfriend? He said it was complicated, that you were being difficult about the divorce. And you believed that for 6 months? She was quiet for a long moment. I wanted to believe it. I was in love with him, and I wanted to believe we could be together. So you knew, I said. Deep down, you knew something wasn't right. Maybe, I don't know. I was so happy I didn't want to question it too hard. You didn't want to know the truth because the truth would have meant giving him up. She nodded miserably. I loved him. I thought he loved me. He did love you. That's what makes this so much worse. Mia looked up, surprised. What do you mean? If it was just sex, just an affair, I could understand that. People make mistakes. But he fell in love with you. He chose you over me, over our marriage, over 3 years of history. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. Rachel, he chose you, and you chose him, and neither of you cared enough about me to be honest. You were both willing to let me be the fool who never saw it coming. That's not true. Isn't it? If I hadn't found out, how long would you have let it go on? How long would you have let me live in ignorance while you planned your future together? Mia didn't have an answer for that. The wedding, she said finally. Why did you do it that way? Why didn't you just confront us privately? Because you deserved to feel what I felt. Humiliated, betrayed, exposed. I leaned forward, and because I wanted everyone to know exactly what kind of people you are. It's been 2 weeks and I can't leave my apartment. Everyone knows, everyone's seen the videos. Good. People are calling me a homewrecker, a slut, a marriage destroyer. Are any of those things untrue? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I lost my job, she continued. My boss said I was too much of a distraction, and Jake blames me for everything. He says if I hadn't pushed for a quick wedding, none of this would have happened. So he's still lying, I said. Still making himself the victim. He says the whole thing was my idea, that I pressured him into proposing before he was ready. And you believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore. Mia wiped her eyes. I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my friends. Even my family is disappointed in me. You didn't lose everything, I said. You lost the things you stole. What do you mean? You stole my husband, my best friend, my sense of security, the wedding planning, the future you were building. All of it was built on lies and betrayal. You didn't lose your life. You lost the fantasy you constructed on top of someone else's destruction. Mia sat quietly for a moment, processing this. Is there any chance? She started. Is there any way we could ever be friends again? I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had been my closest friend for 20 years, who had known all my secrets, shared all my dreams, been there for every major moment of my adult life. No, I said simply. There isn't. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. What you did at the wedding, it was brilliant. Horrible, but brilliant. Thank you. I deserved it. Yes, you did. She stood up to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. Not just for getting caught, but for hurting you. You deserved better from both of us. Yes, I did. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The revenge was complete. The truth was exposed. Jake and Mia had lost each other, their reputations, their fantasy future. They were both facing the consequences of their choices. And me? I was free. Free from a husband who could betray me so completely. Free from a best friend who could smile to my face while destroying my marriage. Free from the lies and the pretending and the gradual erosion of everything I'd thought was solid in my life. I poured myself a glass of wine and raised it in a toast to the empty room. To new beginnings, I said, and to giving people exactly what they deserve. The house was quiet, but for the first time in months, the silence felt like possibility instead of loneliness. Justice served. Truth revealed. Chapter closed. Some stories end with forgiveness and redemption. Some end with love conquering all. This one ended with a woman who refused to be anyone's fool, and 2 people who learned that actions have consequences. Sometimes that's the most honest ending of all.